Hello all of you wonderful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and today I want to talk to you about villains in movies, or more specifically, about villains in movies that no one can remember, which is possibly the worst sin that a film can commit, because after all, a film in most senses is only as good as its antagonist. And if you can't remember who it bloody was, then, well, you pretty much got a stinker on your hands, right? Now, I'm not saying that all the entries on this list are bad films, but still, when your antagonist just isn't cutting the mustard, then it can definitely be hard to say that it was a great experience all the way through. With this in mind, I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 movies you can't remember who the villain really was. Number 10, Dark Phoenix. The final mainline entry into Fox's X-Men community was, to be kind, a total mess. And this was never more evident than with its totally flat depiction of Jessica Chastain's shape-shifting alien antagonist. Now, it's fair to say that 99% of the people that watched this film probably couldn't even name her character. She plays Vuk, a member of the Dabari race, yet both her character's name and her race are only ever mentioned once in the entire movie. Now, considering that the film is called Dark Phoenix and focuses on Jean Grey's struggle to control her Phoenix Force powers, you'd be forgiven for forgetting that she was actually egged on by a villain at all. Jean Grey turning rogue, no pun intended there, and threatening to destroy the world would have been plenty villain for just one movie, but for reasons which will never likely become clear, writer-director Simon Kinberg threw in an hilariously underdeveloped extra antagonist who was supposed to be the true villain. Considering Vuk's total lack of personality and boring motives, nobody could be blamed for failing to remember that she's even part of the bloody movie. Number 9, A Good Day to Die Hard. The first 4 Die Hard movies all featured memorable villains, from Alan Rickman's iconic Hans Gruber to William Sadler's naked martial arts-loving Colonel Stewart, Jeremy Irons' slick Simon Gruber, and Timothy Oliphant's cyber-terrorist Thomas Gabriel. But try and find any fan of the franchise who has even a hope in hell of naming the main villain in the risible 5th film, A Good Day to Die Hard. Despite featuring a number of forgettable Eastern Bloc bad guys baying for the blood of John McClane and his son Jack, it's eventually revealed that the ultimate baddie is Yuri Komarov, who wishes to make off with €1 billion in weapons-grade uranium. He's a character as generic as his plan, and the only thing about him that you're likely to remember is his grisly death, where Jack hurls him into a chopper's rotor blades, which admittedly is pretty nice. Number 8, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Despite being an unexpectedly terrific film, Rise of the Planet of the Apes does rather suffer when it comes to its lead villain. To firmly hammer home the tensions between the fleet of imprisoned smart apes and their human captors, we're introduced to Stephen Jacobs, a businessman with little interest in ethics or safety when there's money to be made. He's shown to harbour active contempt for the apes while ignoring clear warning signs that his experimental project needs to be shut down. In effect, he's responsible for not only causing the pandemic, which wipes out a huge swathe of mankind, but also kickstarting the war between the apes and the humans. Sadly, he never rises above being a predictable cartoon of a business magnate. And all you're likely to remember about him is his hilarious overkill death, where Koba lets him drop hundreds of feet off the Golden Gate Bridge. Number 7, Quantum of Solace. Whatever you make of this highly divisive Bond film, we can surely all agree that it features one of the lamest main villains the series has ever seen. Though Dominic Green's plan, which is to stage a coup in Bolivia and take control of the region's water supply, is just different enough to be somewhat interesting, as a character, Green is sadly a whole lot of nothing. Also, side note, this is literally the plan of what Nestlé's owner believes, so yeah, we actually do have a real Bond villain in real life. Cool. And despite some terrific acting, it fails to imbue Green with much menace or really much personality at all, ensuring that he never really rises above a typical rich, well-dressed megalomaniac. It's the same thing that we've seen in at least 15 other Bond films. Given that Casino Royale introduced the decidedly more interesting villain Mr. White, it's a shame that he's been pushed into the periphery here in favour of a typical Eurotrash baddie who makes no impression whatsoever. Number 6, Deadpool. Now, Deadpool is a classic case of a superhero movie where the hero's personality massively outshines that of their villain. Ryan Reynolds is, of course, a mighty mountain of charm and charisma, so any actor playing the baddie opposite him was going to struggle. Yet with Ajax, were they even trying? Ajax is the main man responsible for Wade Wilson's mutation, but between Ajax' whatever performance and the paper-thin writing, he's more of a prop to serve as Deadpool's origin story than an actual character in his own right. The fact that you're more likely to remember him as Francis rather than Ajax says it all, really. Thankfully, Deadpool 2 proved decidedly more satisfying in the antagonist department, with Fire Fist gradually transitioning from fierce apocalyptic threat to lovable superhero. Number 5. Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. The self-aware nature of Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle ensures that much of the film is focused on making fun of both video games and adventure movie tropes, so the big bad being nothing more than a thin sketch is clearly not by accident. While you could argue that Jumanji itself is the hero's primary form of opposition, villainy is most obviously embodied by scheming archaeologist Professor Russell Van Pelt. But the thing is that Pelt is in the film for no more than a few minutes, literally serving as a final boss. And it's a bit of a shame as well, because the role was actually a bit of a waste of the actor's talents, but still, at least he hopefully got a handsome payday out of it. Number 4. Ghostbusters 2016. Much like Die Hard, it probably didn't help at all that the prior 2 Ghostbuster films had intensely memorable villains, the shape-shifting Gozer and the medieval sorcerer Vigo. So by contrast, the 2016 version of Ghostbusters' main antagonist Rowan North feels like a total afterthought. A loser occultist who wants to bring about the end of the world because, well, nobody liked him? It's almost as if writer-director Paul Feig himself knew that Rowan was a flat villain, given that he ends up turning into a spectral form of the Ghostbusters logo in the third act of the movie. The only way that the film could make Rowan interesting was to literally transform him into the series' most familiar piece of iconography. Hopefully though, the upcoming Ghostbusters Afterlife will finally give fans another over-the-top baddie worth remembering. Number 3. Venom. Despite its general mediocrity, Venom did at least do a decent enough job of reimagining its title character as an amusingly schizophrenic anti-hero. The problem, however, much like Deadpool, is that Eddie Brock's squabbles with the symbiote infesting his body are so much more interesting than the presence of the maniacal investor Carlton Drake. Despite trying his damnedest to elevate Drake beyond the trappings of a slick, suited-up business magnate, unfortunately he's an incredibly boring character with few distinct personality traits. You might remember that he does end up bonding with another symbiote by the film's end, but you probably don't even recall that this abomination is called Riot, and that's totally understandable. Ultimately, Drake and Riot just felt like filler, while the movie set the table for a clash between Venom and Carnage, which definitely is going to be much better. Number 2. Layer Cake. Matthew Vaughn's deliriously entertaining crime thriller is wholly concerned with the messy hierarchy of the British criminal underworld, so it's quite fitting that the main man at the top of the pile is barely even a fixture in the movie at all. Though there are numerous villainous and otherwise dubious characters presented throughout the film, in fact, virtuous people are in hugely short supply here, Layer Cake's main antagonist is Dragan, a ruthless assassin working for a Serbian crime syndicate. His appearances throughout the film are sporadic at best, often only speaking to Daniel Craig's protagonist over the phone and typically keeping his back to the camera even when they do meet in person. This is certainly a case where minimalism does work in its favor, but it's not so much that Dragan is boring or badly written, but just because the man at the top of the food chain simply isn't the focus of the story. And number 1, Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. The Mission Impossible series has done a generally solid job offering up a slate of memorable villains portrayed by terrific actors. From John Voight's shock turncoat Jim Phelps to Philip Seymour Hoffman's Owen Davian, the franchise's rogues gallery is an embarrassment of riches indeed, but the fourth movie's antagonist, not so much. Kurt Hendricks, better known by his codename Cobalt in the movie, is a dapper maniac with plans to start a nuclear war between the US and Russia. Sorry, I just got bored even reading that out. He's really only present to provide a link between the film's ludicrously entertaining set pieces, which are mercifully fun enough to distract from the fact that Hendrix is basically fashioned out of cardboard. And there we go, my friends, those were 10 movies you can't really remember who the main villain was. I hope you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below, as well as any other entries that you would have had for your version of this list. If you want to chat to me further, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. It's my personal gaming channel where I stream every single Wednesday and Sunday. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. We detailed today a lot about film villains, but you know what, my friend? You are not a villain in your own life. You deserve love, happiness, and success. So don't beat yourself up for mistakes that you've made in the past, because shock horror, we all make them. Moving forward, learning to build bridges instead of burning them is definitely the way to become a healthier and happier person, and I hope that you can achieve that. I've got nothing but love for you, so go out there and smash it, you big ledge. As always, I've been Jules, you've been awesome, never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.